Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my beautiful co-host, Ianthe Mauro. And today we are talking about how relationships are a choice. Are they really for better or worse? I'm going to hand it over to Ianthe to set an intention.
Whew. Okay, so today I am setting an intention on a special candle that's called Love Struck by Lucette and Mo. And I did this on purpose because this episode, well, you'll see why. We're going there. We are going there. Relationships are a choice. Here we go. So, and the light just went out. That's great. Let's do another match. It wasn't meant to be on that.
The flames can go out.
Yeah, it's like, you got to take it seriously. Ianthe, come on. Oh my goodness. Okay. Today I'm setting an intention that everyone listening know that every relationship is a choice. It is always your choice.
And so it is. So let's start out by talking about how relationships are in fact a choice and something that you are no longer legally obligated to stay into as a woman or as a man. I think of the vows, for better or worse, until death do us part. And I personally think that those are the most toxic and even manipulative vows that people really cling to and create themselves to be stuck in unhealthy environments. I mean, those vows were from the 1500s when marriage literally was a contract and the only way out of it was death. Thank goodness in this day and age, we are no longer there and we have the freedom of choice.
Yeah, I love this conversation. So, till death do us part, I wrote that down. I remember also the idea of a relationship as a choice was news to me. And I think it was around 2007, maybe 2008. But I went to a therapy called IBP, Integrative Body Psychotherapy. And it was a group session. There were group sessions, and I went every week. And I remember that there was a sign on the door, and it says, a relationship is a choice. And I kept reading it over and over again. You know, when you read something, because it's as if almost what language is that? I don't get it. What do they mean a relationship is a choice? I made a vow. I got married. And when I made that vow, I did vow, for better or for worse, to be there forever. And it was not working for me. And I was getting physically sick in that relationship. And yet I had made that vow. So I was being so hard on myself. And just seeing that sign, a relationship is a choice, was the greatest gift. And then I got to ask myself, because it wasn't immediately, oh, well, then that gives me permission to leave and I can okay, here's where I have to get real about this. When I worry, there's a part of me that worries that in talking about this, I'm saying we're talking about frivolously choosing. I don't like you today and I'm choosing something else. And that is the pendulum swinging the opposite direction. So I do want to say out loud, I believe that I do my best work when I do choose a relationship where I can do the work. And I choose, for me personally, and this does not have to be for you, but I just want to say out loud, so I'm not misunderstood here as we have this conversation, which is very deep and very important to me. I choose long-term monogamous relationships. That's what I choose because I find that my soul does the deepest work in that container. I'm not saying that has to be for you. And I realized I was making a choice and I wasn't stuck. And that's where it was such a gift to see that sign and to know. And then I was able to ask myself, am I choosing? Why am I choosing? Why? Because I am choosing to be in this relationship that is literally killing me. Why am I choosing that and abandoning myself?
Oh, so much gold there. And
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, people.
so, yeah, and it being a choice is what makes it so beautiful, right? Like, I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that is forced and that where for either one of us, I don't want either one of us to be settling at the end of the day. And I look at my own relationship where my spouse and I currently decided to take space from one another. And it caused me to do some really deep soul searching once again. And I think sometimes the only answer in relationships is for them to end. I think that perhaps your soul contracts are up and it's time for each person to go their own separate ways so that they can be the best version of themselves. And sometimes we need to just end those relationships for a short amount of time so that we can do the deep soul searching on our own, remember who it is we are, what our values are, and ensure that those values align and that neither person is settling. So when I look at my own relationship, when we got together, we were both we both had a lot of healing to do. We had both recently separated from our first marriages, and at that point in my life, basing anything on my personal values was not even on my radar, to be completely honest. And I don't think it was for him either. So, something I encourage my children to do, for example, is to make sure that they know what their values are before they get into a long term relationship, what their personal values are and what their relational values are. And that was lacking when we started our relationship. And we do have similar values, but we also both have done a lot of healing. We have both had to face a lot of demons along the way. And at times, those demons have prevented us from living in alignment with our values. So I think it's important, to ensure that you have the same values, that you're living by those values, and that individually you are both being the best version of yourselves so that you can be the best together. And I feel like sometimes that space is needed to ensure that you are that person. Like, it can be smothering when you're going through struggles and you're not sure if it feels forced and it doesn't feel like you have the space to do that soul searching, to ensure that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost. Because let's be honest, in order for any relationship to ever work, the relationship you have with yourself has to be rock solid. And I am no expert on relationships, but one thing I do consider myself to be an expert, or very close to being an expert at, is the relationship I have with myself. And I will always put that first because that is what allows me to show up as the potential to be the best for the person I want to be in relationship with.
Yes. And first of all, massive acknowledgement to you, what you just shared, super vulnerable and real. And it's why I love being with you in these conversations. You are taking a break right now with your partner, and that is not something to lightly go over. That I'm sure has come with incredible gut punching, heart wrenching, soul searching, and not just, well, taking a break. You know what I mean? Because I know how seriously you take relationships and how seriously you take healing. And one thing I wrote down too, as you were talking, is I wrote, how about this question? How is your relationship with yourself? And I'm not asking you that, but I'm saying we can all ask ourselves that when we find ourselves getting very mad at our partner, person that we're in relationship with. How is instead of constantly looking out there, how is our relationship with ourselves? And that's what you brought up so brilliantly, and that you do that work. And I also want to say healing is not linear, people. So no matter how many certifications and courses and types of therapies and modalities and massages and Akashic readings and knowing yourself through the Enneagram and human design and your Western astrology and your Chinese zodiac astrology, you still get to be in healing process. It's not over just because you do these things and check them off your list. And in fact, oftentimes I've found, and I wonder if you've found this too, Kim, but sometimes it's when I'm not looking anymore and trying to get someone else to solve it for me through a modality that I actually drop into what I need.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think 99.9% of the time, the answers are within. And when we're feeling unsure and uncertain, we really can find ourselves looking externally for the answers. It's like, I just want to know. I just want to know. And this is actually something that was coming up for me when I was like, I need space and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I really don't know if this is meant to be any further. And I need to make sure that we're staying in this for the right reasons and not any of the wrong reasons. But I started to panic and fear started to set in. And I was like, oh my God, there are so many reasons in terms of familiarity and comfort that it just feels so much easier to not do this and to just stay. And what if I'm making a mistake? Do I stay or do I go? Do I stay or do I go? What is the right thing to do? I want to follow my soul's purpose and I want to do everything in alignment with my higher self and what is best for me. And in the moment, not knowing what the answer is, I'm like, should I start pulling cards? Should I do this? Should I do that? Right. And I ultimately sat in meditation and it just came in like, bitch, no, you have the answers. You're the one that needs to figure this out for yourself. Nobody can tell you the answers because whatever you choose is right for you. And you have to just trust that. And it's like, okay.
I know. Can't someone just please swoop in? Where is my Glinda the Good Witch? And oh, when she does swoop in, she reminds me that I have the ruby slippers on anyway the whole time. Dang it. I remember you're reminding me, Kim, I have a very dear friend of many, many, many years. And she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but she will often call me and say, I need your intuitive hit. I need you to tell me what you see happening for me. And I used to get caught in this trap of it felt good to my ego to be asked. And I would say, oh, yes, let me give you my intuitive hit. Here's what I think. And I realized that was bullshit. I am not, that is audacious of me. And how the heck, what? And I'm grateful that she trusts me and she's asking and that she trusts things like intuitive hit. But who am I to say? And really, what is it taking away from her if I am just going to say, yeah, here's what I see? Well, what I'm taking away from her is something that I don't want people to take away from me. And that is the hard work of doing the work myself and for her to be able to do the work herself, to trust herself, to trust her own intuition and to trust that she can get it wrong and course correct. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? I'll get it wrong. Maybe I'll leave this relationship and regret I left it. If it's really for you, guess what? You can go back and it will be there for you. And you get it wrong and you get to disappoint people and you get to be messy. And there isn't someone who's going to save you and solve it for you. I am sorry, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you think that there's someone that you can go to, and many people do, yes, you can go to people that you trust and they have sage wisdom and advice. And maybe it's even utilizing certain modalities that I've mentioned. It can all inform you, but in the end, it's informing you of a decision that you alone are meant to make. People can't make decisions for us. And so one of the hard things in a relationship too is that we're trusting our partner to help us in these cases also. And when our partner turns out to not be trustworthy or give us bad advice, hide the truth from us, what are we left with in the end? We're back to us. It's back to this. I'm sorry, but we're born alone and we die alone. And in the middle, we're looking for all these people to tell us what to do. And I'm saying this to myself. I'm not preaching to anybody listening. I'm saying this to me. I want that person too. I look for that person. Oh, who is it that I can call right now? Who's going to solve this for me? Who's going to fix this for me? Who's going to tell me what to do? And when I realize I'm doing that and I catch myself and I stop myself and instead I go in and I say, what is my choice? I get the best answers and it sticks.
Yeah. I think we're very fortunate because we are the type of people that continuously take radical self-responsibility and do the work to be able to build that trust in ourselves, because I think it's a completely different experience. And I have been in that too, where I don't trust myself and I'm out of touch with my, like completely out of touch with my intuition. And I mean, these things do throw you out of touch from your intuition because you become dysregulated and anxious and the emotional roller coaster of it all. And again, one of the reasons that me personally, I was like, I need space to regulate, to come back into my body and reconnect with my intuition so that I know that I am doing what's best for me. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. Not to mention, they have partners that don't respect them and offer them any of those boundaries. And the thing that I have been working through with my partner is a breach of trust. So when you talk about not having the person to be able to trust, like a lot of times this is the issue, right? So it's so crucial to be able to trust yourself when you can't trust that person. Because I know even in conversations when I'm dysregulated and he's sharing from his heart and I'm trying to listen with an open heart, I start questioning things. And that's a really, really challenging place to be, where it's like, I am not sure if I can trust myself right now. I'm not sure if I can trust him right now. It can make a person feel like they're going crazy. And a lot of times where people just start grasping at straws.
Yeah. And since we're talking about relationships and the whole, we started off with the relationships, it's a choice. And if you're married in the United States, and I'm sure it's true in a lot of countries, there's certain language, a default language of for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, till death do us part. And so I want everyone listening to know that that's taking the choice away. That's saying you don't have a choice and you will die here on this hill. And that's the part that I hope everyone is open to hearing, that it is a choice. And that doesn't mean that there isn't great resilience and healing that comes from sticking with something and seeing it through. As long as you're not losing yourself and your core values. And again, I feel like we're repeating things here a lot, but it doesn't matter. It needs to be repeated. The first step, I believe, in having a really strong, healthy relationship is being healthy and strong in who you are and knowing first what your values are, your non-negotiables, the things that you care the most about. And then what are you willing to tolerate? Because we're all different. I'm probably willing to tolerate a lot more than you in certain ways, and you're probably willing to tolerate a lot more than me in certain ways.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what those are.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that is the very basic foundation of a relationship. And let's be real. Let's be really fucking real. People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And it is crucial that we have the skills and abilities to hold our partners accountable. Again, going back to my own relationship, and I'm not perfect in this relationship either, right? So I'm taking personal accountability for things that I need to look at and need to change to have a better relationship. But the one thing that it always comes back to in terms of having a really good, amazing, fulfilling relationship that lights me up on a cellular level is that holding him accountable. Because if I'm not holding him accountable and I'm just tolerating any type of behavior, he's not going to respect me. It's just going to be a very one-sided relationship and we're going to become disconnected. I think this is also where a lot of people really, really struggle and quite frankly lack in the relationship department, is just tolerating and not holding their partners accountable. You have to hold your partner to the standard that you expect and vice versa.
So what does that look like though, Kim? Because if people are thinking, well, what does that look like? And how do you hold someone accountable for your boundaries without telling them what to do? Or do you tell them what to do? You like unpack that for us, please, because I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, because it can't be a forced thing either. So I'll just be completely vulnerable and honest about what's happening in my own relationship at the moment. So we've been taking space, and at first I wasn't sure, do I want to work through this because I was hurt and we hurt each other. At this point, we're in it. We're kind of in this like probationary period. That's what I call it. Not to say you're on probation, but really that's what it is. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here. And I'm not prepared to just like jump 2 feet all into it and act like everything's okay, because it's not. And what I have done is shared my personal values again and said, like, these are the things that are important to me. These are the things that are important to me in you. And I'm not going to tell you that you need to do these things. I want to be with somebody that wants the same things as me and that wants to do these things for themselves. And he wasn't doing some of the things that were in alignment with those values. And I wasn't doing some of the things that I should have been doing for us to be in alignment in those relationship values. So sometimes it takes a breach of trust or a breakdown in the relationship for us to be able to build trust and to be able to work on those shared values together. So I said, these are the things that are important to me, and they aren't happening. I'm not seeing these values in you. I'm not saying that I don't think that these values are important to you, but it doesn't look like you're making them a priority. And I'm not going to tell you that you have to do these things, but I am going to tell you that by not demonstrating these values and living in alignment with them, that it's a turnoff for me. And it doesn't make me feel like I want to be with you. And I can love and respect you as you are, but whether or not we're going to be in relationship is a completely different thing. I might have to love you and not be with you.
Mm. And so to recap that, the way that you hold the other person accountable is that you let them know how you feel, reminding them what you're willing to tolerate and not. And then here's the hard part, the follow up, which you've been doing, the follow through, which is to say, we're taking a break, because in order for you to hold that, hold the other person accountable, you have to be true to your word, which in this case is, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. And since this behavior is going on, we're going to step apart for a bit until it can change, and hopefully it'll change it. But you're not going to do something just because you made a commitment or made a commitment on paper. You're going to honor yourself above all. And from that place, it offers an amazing opportunity, by the way, for your partner to be the best version of himself. So it's a beautiful gift that you're able to give your partner when you're holding boundaries, everyone. You can see how this can work. It's so beautiful the way it works, because what's the opposite of doing this? It's tolerating things that are bothering you. It's creating more and more resentment. It's creating more fights and anger because you now have this stuff that you're holding on to. And how does it come out? It comes out like, and then you regret, and then there's shame. And so there is no good alternative. The only way forward, in my opinion, and from what I've experienced in life and all the different things that I just mentioned that I've experienced in the different kinds of therapies and the people that I've looked up to that I feel do really well in relationships, it always goes back to what you are now modeling for us all, Kim, which is really checking in on what you're willing to tolerate and not tolerate, and be very clear in speaking out loud and sharing what it is that you need. And when those needs aren't met, being willing to step away until they are met.
Yeah.
It's hard though. Wow.
It is really hard. But I believe that on the other side of really, really, really difficult, challenging, hurtful things is bliss, regardless of what the outcome is. So when I put myself first and I honor my values, like I am not here for mediocrity in any stretch of the imagination, in my relationships, in my career, in my family life, in my personal life. That is just not who I am. I am here to have an extraordinary life and extraordinary relationships. Those are part of my values. So I'm not settling, and I don't want my partner to settle either. And with that said, we also have to be willing to take that radical self responsibility. We can't be going and holding our partner to these high standards and expectations when we're not willing to show up and hold ourselves to these high standards and have them hold us to the highest of standards too, right? Like, something I want in a relationship is for my partner to also bring the best out in me. I don't want to be constantly trying to bring the best out in everybody else and then not have that reciprocated. And that's kind of what was happening in our relationship. He's very much like, I'll be with you regardless of, like, there are things that I'm not happy about and things that I would like to see from you, but I will settle. And I'm like, okay, but I don't want you to settle. I want this to be fulfilling for both of us. And I want you to be getting what you want from me. So be open and honest and tell me the things. And like, I already know in my own self-reflection, I can see places that I have fallen short. And some of the places I've fallen short is not holding him accountable when I should have, and waiting for resentment to build, not speaking what we're feeling and what we're experiencing to protect the other person is toxic. And it's what builds resentment and creates these problems. Had I started calling him out sooner, before it had become this big fucking issue where it was like, I can't take this anymore, it probably wouldn't have gotten to that point. So we have to be willing to take that responsibility and really taking a hard, honest look at where we have contributed and being open to hear it from the other person, which is also really difficult and really painful, especially when you're already hurting and raw and angry and things aren't going well.
Oh, and I love all of that you just shared. And it brought up a question, is what's the difference between compromising and settling? Is there a difference? And I want to get to that, but I also want to say, I love when you said, I want us to bring out the best in each other. That is a beautiful goal. And I hope everyone heard that. I heard it. I love that. And I also know from experience and from, just from experience, that it's so good if we can call out what's happening before it becomes a dramatic, enraged fight. So that's what you were describing when you said you wish you would have done it sooner. It's in those times when it feels like, well, I don't want to call it out now because we're doing good. I don't want to have to bring this up because that could take us down a road I don't want to go. So then what are we doing? We're avoiding a conversation. But guess what? It doesn't go anywhere. So the avoidance, whenever you're avoiding, if you notice you're avoiding, and it's called the elephant in the room, by the way, if you've heard that term. What is an elephant in the room? It's that thing you're avoiding saying, but you know it's there. You see it clearly, but you're pretending it's not. But the reason it's called an elephant in the room is, how can you possibly avoid or ignore an elephant? You can't. It's enormous. You can't. So I just love all of this, and it's so much learning. And again, because healing is not linear, I am learning again and back to deepening my learning around how to be good in a relationship, how to be, first of all, really good to myself in my own relationship with myself. And by the way, anyone listening, if you have not taken some time alone recently, and it could be one day, it could be an hour alone if one day sounds like too much, and it could be a week away alone if that feels like you're ready for that. But spending time with yourself, I cannot tell you how underrated that is, to romance yourself, to ask yourself, what do I love? What do I want to do without that? Especially if you're a people pleaser, especially if you have been the good girl, especially all of it, and you're sensitive and you care about what others think, you may not check in with yourself enough for you to really know what it is that you need. And you might just want to start there.
Yeah, I think that's always the best place to start, is focusing on yourself.
So the question of the difference between compromise and settling, the reason that came up for me is that I agree with you. Settling is not for me either. So I don't settle. And I have a very complicated, very intense, and extraordinarily deeply loving relationship with who I think is my forever partner. And I am aware that I'm making that choice every day, though. But I make compromises to be in this relationship. And that might startle, upset, or, people might disagree because the word compromise, I think, can be misconstrued with settling. I am not settling. What I believe compromise is flexibility. It's the awareness that it's not my way or the highway. It's the awareness that there's give and take, and that's what a relationship does. And if I wanted no compromise at all, I don't think that I would deserve a relationship. I don't believe a relationship can exist without compromise. I think compromise is beautiful because I think flexibility is one of the greatest powers we have in life. We learn from being flexible, and it's something we could do a whole episode around. I'd be happy to do that and not go off too much on a tangent on it now. But compromise to me is about the awareness that we are two different people. We're not going to always see things the same, and welcoming the differences and being able to recognize that I get to learn something from this person by not always having my way. And I learned something about myself that way too. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You're not always going to love every single thing about your partner, and they're going to have needs and expectations as well. And sometimes you might not completely agree on those things. And that's where you have to, again, look at what am I willing to accept and tolerate? It's not going to be 100% all about me all the time. In this case, it would be very easy for me to say, well, you did something wrong and you need to make up for what you did wrong. And we don't need to look at anything that I have done to contribute to this because this is all about you and you're the one that's in the wrong. And I think this happens a lot in relationships. I'll give another example. There was a breach of trust in the relationship. He didn't share something with me because he felt deep shame around it and didn't want to let me down. And I need to have that trust rebuilt. So there are certain things that he's going to need to do to build that trust back with me. And he shared with me that he's been feeling a little bit disconnected from the relationship because of how much time I work and spend on my phone when he's at home. And the time that he's at home, I fully take advantage of to do work because we have kids and I'm with the kids a lot of the time. So when he comes home, I'm like, oh, great. It's a time for me to be able to focus without the kids. So I very easily could just say, too bad. No, I need that time to do work and I didn't do anything wrong. So I am going to keep doing what I'm doing. And you figure out how to rebuild that trust with me and I'll see how it goes or whatever. And I also want to share this just so people know that this is very much not the case. I'm making compromises and saying, okay, what can I do to make you feel more loved and appreciated? What can I do to be more present and engaged in the relationship? Because I want attention and I want to feel loved and appreciated. And I have the ability to put myself in his shoes and say, yeah, you know what? That probably doesn't feel really good when you come home from work and I'm just ignoring you on my phone. And I'll pop my head up and say, oh, hey, this is what you need to do with the kids and talk to you later type of a thing. And it would be nice if you were excited to see me when I came home, which you have been in the past. So there's so much in there, right? I'm not going to pretend to be excited to see you. I want to be excited to see you too. So what can we do to deepen our connection? Well, it really, again, boils back down to the values. What can we do together that's in alignment with our values so that we can reconnect, deepen the connection between us and to our values? So it's full of compromise. I'm willing to compromise here. I'm willing to not spend as much time on my phone in the evenings and commit to talking to you, connecting with you, doing therapy with you, going to the gym with you. And he is compromising by doing all of these things that he wasn't doing before because he thought he didn't have time for, like going to the gym and therapy. And it's just, in my opinion, a beautiful way to try to meet in the middle.
What's so great, what I really heard in everything you were saying is your ability to listen to your partner. And so if there's one thing you can take away from this episode, and hopefully there's a ton of things and you're getting all sorts of sparks, everyone that's listening, of ideas and ways to be closer to yourself in relationship and then able to show up beautifully in relationship with others, is that listening is the gateway to understanding, and then understanding is the gateway to deepening the relationship. So it feels it's all connected to listening. So maybe it's as simple as, where am I not listening because I have an agenda? And this shows up a lot in my life because I tell stories. I'll make up a whole story before I go to the person, and I've already got a story made up of why they did this or didn't do that. That's not listening. So that's an example of not listening. That's an example of showing up, and I'm outing myself on doing this, showing up with assumptions and agenda, just not being present. But what's beautiful about what you described is, in your listening, you were able to then take responsibility for what you were doing, which was being on your phone a lot when he was home and he was asking for something different. Now, you don't have to. What's great too, and this is back to compromise, I'm sure you did a compromise. I'm sure you didn't say, okay, I'm locking my phone away for all these hours, but I'm sure you came up with a compromise. I know you well enough to know that. And the compromise was because you listened and you heard. And can you imagine, can all of you, because I put myself in his position when you were telling me this story, right? For a minute. And I felt so much acknowledgement and gratitude when you said, oh, yeah, I can see that. I hear you. I could feel that. I could see that moment being something relaxing to the nervous system for both of you just by listening.
Yeah, and I think taking the ego out of it can be the hardest part. It's like, I want what I want.
And you said, I'm right. And I'm right.
And you're wrong. And also being vulnerable, because it's really, really hard to have these deep, open conversations. I think even harder for him than it is for me, because he has this deep-seated fear around letting me down and disappointing me. Not that I want to disappoint him, but I think I have more safety in myself than he does. And to be vulnerable, there has to be a level of safety there. And if you're not willing to put your ego aside to allow your partner to be vulnerable, and vice versa, I don't see how it's even possible. I mean, yeah, you can stay together and settle and have a mediocre relationship, I guess. But that is definitely not what I'm here for. I want that deep connection where we're madly in love and life is good and it's lighting me up on a cellular level. And I am excited to see him when he comes in through the door.
And I don't want to give a false picture of Kim and I are always so patient and listening to our partners and compromising. And I want you to know something. I'm not going to speak for you, Kim. We've shared things behind the scenes, so I know, and you can share yours. But I will tell you, people would be surprised and shocked to see me get mad, because I don't do it often and I don't usually do it publicly. And you have to be extraordinarily close to me to see that side of me. Most people don't see it. It's something I've struggled with, actually. I think that my anger is so big that it will hurt others to the point where it will be irreparable damage. That's not true. Guess what? I get to also get mad. I get to be ugly and angry and use words that I will probably later regret. And I do all of that. I don't always fight fair, and I'm not always patient, and I'm not always a good listener. But the point is, I'm with the person that I'm choosing to be with because for me, he's worth it. Today, he's worth it. And so he has chosen the same thing. I'm worth it. So we will have these kerfluffles. We will have these arguments. We will have words. And there are people where that's not tolerated. By the way, I know and I understand that. There's some people that say, I can tolerate, a fist hitting a table, but I can't tolerate the F word in an argument. Okay. And if that's a non-negotiable for you, that's your core value. I actually don't mind yelling. I don't mind large rage coming out because my awareness is that if it doesn't come out and if it's there on the surface and it's under and held, it can cause disease. I want to see it come out. I want to see it come out in a way that is productive. And we can have a whole episode on that. But I don't want to see it come out in a way that's not productive, where it's just evil. But I do want to see, don't want it suppressed. And I don't want it suppressed in me because I think that I had created that lump in my throat, the thyroid disease, because I wasn't speaking my truth. But part of being able to speak my truth was I had to find my witch's cackle. I had to find my shadow side, had to be able to get out in some way, not going to hurt the other person and also not hurt me by being afraid I'd hurt the other person by sounding angry. And I mean, this might all sound like a lot to throw out here at the end of our episode, but I'm doing it anyway because that's where I'm going. The whole point being how it looks to you, what is important to you. Please go back to that. Please ask yourself in the quiet stillness of trusting your own heart without anybody else's opinion of what it looks like, how much financial stability it will or will not give you, any of that. The contract you may or may not have already made. What is it that you need? What feeds your heart and soul? What allows your nervous system to be fully present for you?
Yeah, what makes you feel safe?
And if you need to take a break, that's what it looks like. And I know in your case, that's what you're telling us. And I know that, again, and this is the woo-woo side of me, but if it's meant to be, you can take all the breaks in the world and you'll still come back together.
Oh, yeah. And people prevent themselves all the time from doing that because of the fear of what might happen. What if I lose them? What if they go find somebody else? What if? Well, what if? If it's meant to be, we'll figure it out. And if one of those what ifs happen, then as far as I'm concerned, it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the end, what's beautiful about trusting yourself and giving yourself the best relationship possible is that guess who you're stuck with and left with? You.
Yeah.
No matter who you're with, you're with you always, no matter who else.
And I love being with me. If I'm going to take the time away from me and give it to you, it better be worth it. That's the way I see it. You think of that song, I'd rather be alone than unhappy. It's not even a question for me. I'm not going to stay in a relationship that I'm not happy in because I love myself so much and I enjoy my own company. And it is a pleasure to spend time with myself.
Yeah. And I get sad when I think about my younger self, how afraid she was to be alone to the point where she would stay with something far, far longer than was serving her. And I forgive my younger self for that. And I had to go through that and learn because here I am. And I get to be with you and have these conversations and be real and unapologetically uplifting in any way that we possibly can. And I thank everyone that's listening and we've been getting, by the way, thank you all who reach out to us. We really do read every DM and we read every message and comment. And it means a lot when you tell us that something touched your heart or helped you or gave you a smile or you felt seen in any way. We appreciate it so much. I'll just remind is that a relationship is a choice. You always have a choice to be there or not. If it doesn't feel like a choice, that is an absolute red flag. So just know that because it is. And work on the relationship you have with yourself because you are ultimately your closest and always confidant throughout this entire life.
Yeah, and I think if you do feel like you're stuck in a relationship or like you're staying for the wrong reasons, it absolutely starts with pouring into yourself and starting to build yourself up so that you can get to a point where you don't feel like you have no other choices and like you have to stay for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And you are strong and resilient and capable of so much. So even if it feels bleak at the moment, even if you feel like, wow, I'm that person, I'm stuck. I'm promising you that I was too, and I'm not now. And it is possible for you to have the relationship where you are heard and honored and respected, and both of you are compromising. And what you said, that you're bringing out the best in each other. I really love that.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say for anybody that is, for whatever reason, feeling like they need to get out of a relationship, but they're afraid. There's so many reasons that we convince ourselves not to, and we tell ourselves so many stories. We gaslight ourselves. Typically, the worst you're going to feel is in those moments where you're convincing yourself that it's going to be so much worse and you're not going to be able to survive. Just remind yourself in that moment, it doesn't really get any worse than this. And it can only go up from here. Because I feel like so many people allow that to bring them back in, those difficult, hard, scary feelings. But it really doesn't get any worse. It can only get better. So I want people to remind themselves of that and really just take really good care of yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, be your own best friend. As corny as that is, it's true. What do you love about yourself? What's one thing? Even if right now you can leave this podcast and say, okay, I love this about myself. Great.
Yeah, and something that's been incredibly helpful for me is like the nervous system regulation, exercising, and doing things to make me feel good, because we can really focus on all of the difficult emotions and how terrible we feel, and it can really spiral. If you can just push yourself to go do something that's going to make you feel good, it helps you come out the other side and see that there is sunshine. It's not all doom and gloom and terribly bad. Move your body.
Yeah, and feel good with a little more of a long term. So it's not a quick dopamine hit feel good, which would be self-medicating, because it only feels good in the moment, and then you feel really bad after, like eating a whole bunch of Reese's peanut butter cups. I used to do that after an audition. I'd be super nervous, and I remember I'd always stop at whatever 7-Eleven or gas station I could. I'd buy like 3 Reese's peanut butter cups, and I would eat them all, and I would take my time and like eat around the outside first, and then either, and I'd think, oh, this is giving me something sweet and lovely, and I'm feeling so much better about myself, until about an hour later, when I would feel so bad and have so much regret. So I know that's a food way of putting it, but there are other ways that we do that. So what you're saying with exercise, walking, going outside, take your shoes off and stand in the earth for just a few minutes, and it will help you to ground and have that nervous system regulation. Get into groups like Kim's Divine Activation group, where she leads us in tapping technique with positive affirmations 5 days a week. There's so many things accessible to you. Find the one that works for you, that makes you feel good, not just in the moment, but long-term goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want to numb out with vices that are unhealthy at all. Just find the good medicine. Like exercise is by far the best antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication you will ever find. It is the medicine if you let it be. So yeah, just find those things that make you feel good.
Yeah. And I hate exercise. Hate it. I hate it. I won't go to the gym. Guess what? As soon as I do it, I'm always grateful. And I never say, why did I do that exercise? Why did I do that walk?
Right.
I never do that. I never do that. So again, we're not here telling you it's so easy, we're doing it all right, and we don't have these negative thoughts still come up. Again, healing isn't linear. We're here doing it messy and unapologetically right before your very eyes. And we love you for being here with us.
Yes, thank you. Please do leave us a review as well. Tell a friend, share us out, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram as well at unapologetic_uplift_podcast. We love you, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors Objects with Purpose Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically, and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.